Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. It's the 21st of December. And yeah, this will be what I think most likely will be the last stream of the year for me. I have next week off from work, and so I'm taking it off from this work, I guess, side job, whatever you want to call it, because I want to try to do some stuff to make the stream a little bit better, make some changes and some updates to my software and some of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I figured I'd give myself a little break for the week, next week. And yeah, so if you are planning to watch next week, or were thinking you would have something to watch from me next week, you won't. But hopefully that will be a small inconvenience. Hey KG, happy holidays. Yes, it's almost Christmas. I can't believe it's this weekend. Hey, if any of you live in the US and have heard about some crazy storm going in the Northeast right now, um, thanks for the follow. Ha ha. What does that say? Ha ha ha, Lobo. Thanks for the follow. Um, so yeah, if you live in the US and you've heard of this some crazy storm that's coming, it's going to be hitting my city on Christmas Day apparently, or Christmas Eve or whatever. So it's going to get real crazy around here. I live right by one of the Great Lakes, and I just saw them saying something about like at this far end of the lake that I live on, there might be like, I don't know, something like 20-foot waves or something, which is crazy. 10 to I don't know. It was some insane number that I was like, that doesn't seem to make any sense. So and wind and snow and all sorts of crazy stuff. It's supposed to be like a snow hurricane kind of, I guess, which seems like a bad thing. I mean, it's not quite a hurricane, but you know, snow plus insane amounts of wind is not good. I think it's called a blizzard actually. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, so happy holidays. It's happening. Everything's happening. So yeah, in my spare time, which I guess I don't have, I have a decent amount of spare time, but in my spare time, I also do, I do some live work as a lighting engineer for the local NHL team, and I'm supposed to do. Well, I'm like on call for the game on Friday, but I think there might be canceling the game, so it's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess everything's happening that day. It's gonna get wild. So yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting Christmas. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. Oh yeah, coastal flood watching effect. There you go. Yep. So you guys are getting a little bit of that too. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting Christmas weekend. So yeah, Stacy, is it going to be one of those things where you see where you see just water just pouring into the subways and stuff like that? Hopefully not. But I've seen some videos. I think it was like one of the hurricanes that came through recently that they just had like crazy storms or whatever up in New York, and it was just inundating all of the what do you call it? All the subways and stuff. So yeah. Anyways, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, it'll be an interesting Christmas weekend. This is the first time in a while that I can remember a big storm on Christmas. Usually, recently it's been like, you know, I live in Buffalo, and in the U.S., everybody gives Buffalo a hard time for getting feet of snow at a time. We just got 7 feet in one go in one storm, like a month ago now, and but usually Christmas isn't snowy. But this year, we'll see. Might be a crazy one. Also, my apologies in advance if I'm coughing or hacking or doing anything like that. I don't think I have COVID or anything, but I've just been like, it's one of, you know, it's that time of year. It's the time of year for feeling like garbage. So I felt fine for most of the day, and now I'm like, oy, feeling crappy again. So my apologies if I'm hacking or coughing or anything like that. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. I'll try to mute the old microphone if I'm about to get in something. But anyways, enough chit chat. Let's talk some Houdini. Let's talk about what we're gonna do today. So, it was probably about, I don't know, maybe a month ago or so that I saw a topic suggestion from his name's Peter. He goes by Built by Peter, I think. He put a thing in here about, I'm going to try to say this, it's called trichomes, which I think has something to do with marijuana, I think. I think it's some sort of marijuana thing. But I looked it up actually, and I can't remember what it was now, but I was like, what does this word mean? Yes, it's something to do with, okay. So it's just on plants, but yeah, cannabis. There you go. Cannabis trichomes. Got it. Yes. So it's plants, but cannabis more specifically. I'm clearly not very cool, and I don't. Yeah, I don't know a lot about this kind of stuff. So yeah, kind of a little bit lame, but that's okay. We're gonna here. Let me open up these links, and I'll show you guys what he posted on our Discord. We can kind of talk about maybe how we're gonna do some of this stuff. So let me throw this up on there and take a look at it. So these are trichomes. Yeah, some procedural modeling. Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of figure something out here with these trichome things. I hope I'm saying that right. I might not be. They're really weird looking. I've never heard or seen these before, but they got some really cool shapes to them. Like I like these little like puffy sections, and there's like these sections that are kind of like stuck down. So I think what we're going to do is do some modeling, but then also do a little bit of vellum on it to try to get that puffy kind of blown up kind of look that they have. So yeah, you can see it here a little bit too. I mean, I think these are like really tiny. I think these are like microscopic little things, but yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here, if these are inside or not. It's a little hard to tell exactly what's going on there, but this one I really like. I really like this. It looks like sewing on a pillow, basically. So we're gonna figure out maybe some ways to make some cellular kind of patterny things, probably using some noise or something to that effect, to create some interesting little ridges and things like that on it. But yeah, we'll see kind of how it goes. I have some ideas, but you never know exactly how something's going to go. So this is what we're trying to do today. It's what I'm going to give a shot to. I think the idea that we're going to go for here is pinning some points down and then letting the sim kind of help us with puffing out to get these nice little folds and things like that. I think that'll be kind of one of the nicer ways of doing it. But we can always play around with it and do maybe some other things if we want to as well. But it's going to be kind of a mix. It's like a little sim, little procedural modeling, kind of both. I didn't really know how to say that in a succinct way, so I just, whatever. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so I think it should be pretty interesting. It's just weird looking stuff. It's kind of alien looking, but I think I'm going to try to go with this type of a look as best I can on like the stem of it, basically. Thanks, Theo. Yeah, happy Houdini holidays. Yes, very much. I should have done some. I guess. Well, I've been doing snow recently, so I guess we'll say that was my holiday thing. This is more of a recreational adult holiday thing, I guess you can. I don't know. I'm super lame, and I've literally never smoked or drank anything, so I don't know anything about any of these kind of vices of these types. So it's kind of a gray area to me. But anyways, yeah, happy holidays. Sorry, I'm feeling a little loopy today. I don't know. Anyways, oh, another thing I wanted to. Oh yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, hopefully there's Peter right there. Another Peter. Yeah, hopefully this will be something interesting and it'll be good. I can't promise any like amazing results. I haven't been like doing this for like weeks on end, so I'll give it a shot. If we can't get anything decent, I can always make an amendment to this in the near future and say, hey, maybe I'll take a little more time on this and try it. I always like to do these things a little bit more off the cuff, just so we can have conversations about it while I'm kind of learning and everybody else is learning. So my apologies if this doesn't really answer your question per se, but yeah, you're no problem, man. Thank you for asking about it. It's certainly an interesting thing that I never would have found on my own. Anyways, one other thing I wanted to say before we dive into Houdini proper, getting into some actual Houdini stuff here is, as far as the stream goes, if you guys have any suggestions as far as things you'd like to see on the stream, as far as like improvements that I could make to how I do the stream, I guess I should say, versus content. I mean, content's always going to be, kind of, is going to be a little bit of a moving target, and things are always going to be changing. But as far as how I'm streaming and doing these kind of things, I'd love to get any suggestions from you guys. I'm sure you've watched plenty of videos as I have as well, but only so many of them are live. And so, as far as the way that I present this and go about this, week to week, I'd love to hear your feedback. You can always throw that in the Discord. You can put that in, the chat here if you have some suggestions, and I can kind of talk about them on air live. Like I said, next week I'm going to be taking some time to really, to really kind of focus on the site specific. Oh, and if you don't have a link to the Discord, hopefully that'll put it in. Yeah, there you go. So there's the website, and you can get into the Discord that way if you're watching and haven't seen that before. So, I'm going to try to take a little bit of next week to improve some things software-wise. I'm going to be kind of overhauling how I stream, I think. That's at least the plan, and hopefully that'll go well. I just feel like I want a little bit more flexibility on how I can do things and not have to, have things set up through OBS is great, but it's free, and it's definitely has its limitations. So I'm going to try some other solutions that are out there that I've kind of been eyeing up for a while. And if there's anything I could do better, like if you're like, hey, like one thing I'm annoyed by, even though I don't hear it, is like I can't really randomize the music at the beginning of the stream because I want some music to like make it not just dead air, but I have no real good way of doing that right now. So I'm gonna do that through the new software, I think, and have some video content that I've been meaning to put up and just haven't like put together and rendered out. But I think there's some ways I'll be able to do it better through this new software without having to like render it into one big video and have it loop and do all that kind of stuff. So, so there's some of those things that I want to get a little bit better at. But if there's anything that you guys have suggestion wise that I could do better, I'd love to hear it. Certainly I'm not a professional at this. I do have a lot of experience doing live production, but certainly not streaming in this way. So, so I'd love to know. And also, just another disclaimer, if you guys have any suggestions on anything I'm doing tonight at all, please feel free to put it in the chat. I do not claim to be subject matter expert on all of Houdini or any of Houdini, maybe even for that matter. Bit of a generalist, so I kind of hit a little bit of everything. So if you guys know something specifically that's really good, or you have a question, or you think that I'm doing something wrong or something I'm doing doesn't make sense, please always put that in the chat. I'd love to hear. Or if you're watching after the fact, put a comment in. I will try my best to keep an eye on comments. Hopefully my stuff will notify me when you put a comment in the after a video or whatever. But all right, enough of me talking about nothing. Let's do some Houdini. So the first thing that we're gonna do. Yes. Just to answer your question, I guess Lobo, I'll call you. Just to answer your question, yeah, I definitely have looked into tops and PDG. I've talked about it a little bit on the stream. In fact, if you go back maybe a couple weeks now, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I did a Q&A session, and I talked a little bit about PDG in there as well. There is a really good PDG intro course that an intern of ours at Side Effects on the education team put together for PDG / tops. I mean, tops, whatever. Anyways, he put it together, and it's a really great introductory course, and it'll really get you kind of up and running with the concepts and terminology of working in tops. And it's got a pretty cool little like city builder that you can kind of break apart too and look at. He doesn't really talk about that, but it's certainly part of the downloads that you could get. So, I would look into that if you're personally questioning about it. But I definitely have looked into it, and I've used it, and I do use it. On here, maybe not so much, but I definitely have used it in the past. So yeah, that's a great topic, and I think we will definitely talk a little bit about that in the coming year. So yeah, if you guys have any topic suggestions, always put it on the Discord for sure. I'd love to hear it. So Yeah, so I think the first thing we're gonna do is just get the basic shape of this down. We're just gonna get a little, I'm probably gonna do a little bit of a curve type thing here, and just with a, add some sort of a little sphere at the top just to get, just to, yeah, no problem. It should be right on the front page of the website. If not, let me know and I can get you the link to it. But it's good course. I definitely highly recommend it. So, all right, so we'll do a little bit of a curve and like a little sphere at the top and kind of smush that down, get that going, and yeah, let's see what we can do. Finish a little bit of my coffee here, and we'll keep going. I just realized I made myself a caffeinated coffee tonight, and that's going to be really bad come, I don't know, 11 o'clock when I'm still awake. Woo! There we go. All right, you guys are gonna have a hyper me in an hour or so, or at least more energetic. All right, so let's start with some geometry here. We'll put that down. We'll just call this. Honestly, I'm just gonna do this all in one. I don't think we need to do too much with it. Color that green for geo. I'm gonna open up this. I don't know if we're going to need the geometry spreadsheet just yet. I'll just keep it down here so it's easily accessible. All right, so let's do a line. It's going to be kind of, whatever. That's good. Let's see here. Obviously, we're going to need some points. So I don't know. I'll start with maybe like 24 points, something like that. No real reason. Just maybe that's good. I don't know. If we want it curved a little, something like that. All right, so then let's do a bend deformer. Can use that to kind of give ourselves some nice little tool handles and stuff like that. Now, by default, you'll see that this happens with the little box around it. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to set the capture. First, I'm going to turn on the point snapping here. We'll set the capture region, and we'll just snap it to that point and up to there. And now we've got our kind of domain of this bend set up. And so we can kind of tweak this however we might want it. Something maybe like that. I don't know. Cool. We could always change the capture length as well. That'll obviously change how that is working. But all right, so we've got our bend here. We've got our line. Let's do let's do maybe a polywire UV. This is kind of the newer node that got put in here. And I think this will be good because it's going to keep a couple things here at the end. It's going to give us the mesh, and it's going to also keep the control curve from the original thing. I bet if we jump in here, we'll see that, yep, the curve kind of stays over here on this side, and then the polywire kind of all happens on this side. Yeah, so that's cool. I think we'll use that just for our geometry. It's going to give us some nice UVs in case we want to use that for some reason, which we very well could. We'll kind of see how this goes. All right, so this is a little different than the regular polywire, and I haven't used this all that often. So let's look at this here. So maybe again we'll do this maybe like 20. I don't know. We want it to be fairly round. Let's maybe go until we've got kind of a nice square size here, square shape. Maybe we'll try 32. Yeah, that's not too bad. Cool. All right, so you can see that we're getting nice, we're getting some nice UVs there. So that's great. What we're gonna need is to change the width of this. Let's do that. Let's change the width of this down. How big does that get? Let's take a look at these again here. Okay. Just gotta make these a little smaller. Yeah, maybe like the max width will be like 0.75, and then we'll lower it down to the end. Now, do we have... interesting here. Okay, so Yeah, we could. I mean, we could do this several different ways, right? You could use this polywire UV, right, and it's going to give you the UVs. You could also do the sweep, and I think at this point the lab curves sweep, whatever, is the same as this. I'm just going to do a round tube here, and the thing that's nice about this, which is a little different because you're not getting UVs, obviously. We can do end caps. We can just do a single polygon for right now. How many did I give that? 32. Yeah, 32 divisions. So we'll do 32 here. And the nice thing about this is we could use this scale ramp and we could say scale along the curve. And we should be able to kind of adjust this, around, make this work, how we might want it, like that, whatever. So like my guess would be that what we'd probably want to do is something like, sorry. Where am I looking here? B-spline, something like that, so we can get like a little curve to it, something like that, whatever. Maybe it's along the lines of that is what we have. So that's good. But if we wanted to get maybe the best of both worlds or something that maybe kind of incorporates the two, with the nice UVs here, what we could do is we could add a width attribute, which we'll call width. And then we'll do a float, attribute adjust float. And what we can do here is we can say, yep, that should be good. And then we can take, just thinking out loud here while I'm working. So what we need is a way to kind of vary this attribute over time. So we're just going to take this, we're going to do a resample here. And instead of doing any segment lengths, we're going to turn that off and just output the curve U. As you may have learned previously, this is just going to give us a 0 to 1 attribute along the curve. So the point numbers here, let's see, 0, so 0, 0, 23 is going to be 1. So it's going to be 1 up at the top, 0 at the bottom. So that's perfect. That should work great. So now what we can do is use that. So we're going to use source attribute curve U. And let's output width here. So this is the attribute we're creating, and we're outputting that. So now we should have this, which is clearly not what we want, but it's doing something, so that's great. So we're starting to get somewhere with this. So let's take this. Let's instead flip this around a little here. So let's do maybe that first, and then we'll put one up here, and then maybe one here. And I'm just going to turn these into B-splines just so it's a nice smooth situation going on here. Oops, added another one by accident. So then maybe it's like that. And then this here gets to be something like that. And so now we're starting to get a little bit of the best of both worlds here, where we have this UV polywire that's doing its thing. But instead we are putting an attribute into it that's called width. That's going to adjust that per vertex along the way, along the length of that backbone. So I don't think there's anything else in here that would have made that a little bit easier, unfortunately. But I think this tool kind of is doing enough inside of it that I think they probably wanted to leave that as sort of a separate thing, so it wasn't like trying to put too much into it, But this does the trick just fine, because you get that nice control curve for it, and you can use both of these here. So these should more or less be about the same. I mean, granted, they're a little different. In fact, I probably didn't change this because this is width, so that's 0.0075, and this is radius. So if we do 0.075, yeah, there you go. I don't know why that, yeah. Anyways, so those are pretty close. They're not exact. And what we could even do is we could take this scale ramp, we could copy this parameter, we could paste the values in there, and now those should basically be exactly the same, just with one having UVs on it instead. So, okay, so we started getting that going, so that's cool. I think I'm going to turn the UVs off for right now just so we can kind of see the geometry a little bit better. Oh, interesting. These are less square than I was hoping for. I was just looking to see if this would change the resampling of that or change the way that that's working. And it's not. My guess is that that will... Let's take a look at these here. So we're going to do this and this just to look at what's coming out of here. And my guess is that this is going to resample the curve coming out of there. Let's just take a look at that. Yep, it does. Interesting. That's a very interesting adjustment, that it only adjusts the control curve. Not sure why that would be the case, but that's interesting. Okay. Missing something here? I don't think so. I don't think I'm missing anything there. I think that's, yeah. So what we could do as well is we could take this here and we could resample it if we wanted to. Turn that down and that should resample this. Let's just double check that. Yep, that does look like that's the case. So if we do that, yep. So maybe something like that is working. Cool. How does this look? Yeah, that's interesting. Those are basically the same. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we've got this geometry here. That's kind of just two different ways you could go about doing it. They look a little bit different as far as the actual controls go, but you know, you can pick your poison, I guess. I'm probably just going to go with the polywire UV just in case we need that for something, because it's going to give us a nice clean UV space that we can work with. In fact, if we go to here and look at our UV, we should see that that is nicely, all split up there, which is pretty cool. Although it is past the 1 and 0 space, you could probably have it, give it some cuts here and have it repack that into one UV, but at least it's clean to start with and you can always tweak it from there. So, yeah. All right, let's keep going then from there. All right, so we need a sphere at the end of this, which would be good. Probably what we'll do is we'll just take the end point of this, which is going to be the curve U of 1. Yep. And we'll just have that, we'll just keep that point wherever it is and maybe copy a sphere to it. So we have this. Well, I can just leave that there. Not gonna hurt anybody. All right, so this, we're gonna call this curve and this mesh. So we have those. Great. All right, so let's do a copy to points. Yep, we have a source group here. And what we could do is we could just grab a sphere. Yep, we don't want to copy it to every point because that's not what we want. Looks interesting, but no, false. All right, so let's do this. We can just do points probably and grab a point from this. Target points, right. My bad. There. And what we could say here, we could select it, first of all. Like we could just grab it like that and say, yep, that's the one we want it to go to. And if we put a transform here on the top, we could scale that down. And then, let's see, we can grab this. Oh, excuse me. We can take this and copy these two. I'm going to shift click those both, put them into a merge. And now we're starting to get somewhere here. Hopefully not too, hopefully we'll keep this a little, not too inappropriate looking, but it is a little weird, but hey, here we are. So we've got the sphere at the end of that, right? So that's kind of doing its thing. And we could always use this to help offset that a little bit if we wanted to. We could kind of tweak, based on where it is from the, oops, I have the point snap on still, so we're gonna turn that off. So like depending on where this is, we could have it, be at a different location or whatever, we could kind of offset it like that and it'll stay there. And the nice thing about this too is that depending on how we bend it, it's going to stay attached to that end object. So this is sort of where that procedural nature of this whole setup is going to come into it, right? Because we're just taking that one point. However, to be a little bit cleaner here than just picking a numbered point, because if we resampled this, that's going to break. So like if we did it to that, now it's in the middle because that's where 0.72 is. So we don't want that. That's bad juju. So let's just do this. And instead, what we can do down here is we can say, at curve u equals 1. So that should put it at the end. So now, so that's going to be looking up this curve u attribute. I'm just going to slide this up a little bit here, right? So we have curve u, and so it's going to be taking the 1.0 right here at the very end. And there's only going to be one point that has that. So that's going to always be at the very end of that curve, kind of going up in the y-axis, right? So that's a really great way to be able to select certain points, right? You can do that with really any attribute that's coming in, as long as it's looking for like a primitive or a point, and it's something that you could give it like a Boolean statement, like, if, this is set to 1, then great. Like if you had a bunch of them that would have that set to 1, then it would copy it onto all those points. It would keep all those points. So it's kind of like having a blast. You could do that in like a blast node too, but this is kind of just a quicker way to do it, just all in one step. I mean, you certainly could put a blast node in between here with that same code in it, and it would just keep that 1 point. So 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. So anyway, so that's kind of a quick way of doing that. And yeah, so that's looking pretty good. Just trying to think here. And we should be good, no matter where the resample happens there. So that's great. I'm going to open this back up to look at it again here and just kind of see what's going on. So I think actually we want maybe a little bit more separation there. So let me just try to think of how to best do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this curve and I'm going to do an orient along curve. So we're going to do this one instead here. I'm going to get rid of this little dot because we don't need it. If you ever want those dots, just hold down Alt and it'll give you these little dots that are just like little connectors, which are really nice to be able to organize your oh boy, getting blown up here. Cool. Getting blown up. Sorry. Okay, so this is going to add some attributes for us. And the one that's going to be really helpful should be actually the one that we get by default, which should be the normals, which are going to follow along on this curve. And so if we just look at this now, yeah, that's sort of doing what we want it to do. But what you can see now is that this has an orientation to it, right? Before we had this, it's just copying it just as is, right? And if you, or as is like this, if you look at the point, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of the name of it. There's like a point transformation or like an instancing attributes or something in the documentation. It talks about which order it uses these in. And so in this case, we're making both an N and an up. So it's using those to figure out the orientation of it. We could also add this orient quaternion into it. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to copy it and should do the exact same thing with it, which it does. The big difference here is that if we look at this and let's pull up the orient here just so we know what's happening. So there's our orient. And I'll make this a little smaller just because it's a little on the big side. There we go. So we should be able to see this a little bit better now. And we can see that it has all these orientation, X, Y, and Z axis on it. And that's being made by that quaternion orient attribute that's right here. So you can do this either way. Both of them will work for it, but probably the easier way to work with it is going to just be using N and up. And actually, in fact, let's just see if taking up out of this, yep, that does change the way that it gets added here. So kind of doesn't super matter, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to be like that. So now instead we're going to be looking at the z-axis, and in this case, the sphere is getting copied onto that z-axis right there. So kind of matching this n. You could use that too, I guess. Doesn't really matter. Those are both going to be about the same. Looks like it just rotated a little bit. So we can do that. We can do n and up, leave those as is. And because this is being created in the z-axis, it's basically making sure that the direction that the normal is pointing is the direction that this z-axis is pointing. So you can see now this is pointing the same as that. So those are both matching up now. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think it'll be helpful to make an adjustment to this kind of on the fly, because we're making that orientation after we bend it. So what we can do is actually a really cool little like procedural thing here with this is we can take this, and instead of worrying about this transform here, maybe I'm just gonna turn that off for right now. Oh, actually, you know what? Sorry. I'm just gonna control middle click that just so it's in the right position, but I'm just using the scale now. So I'll do this like 0.2. So what we'll do is we'll take this same target points thing here. We'll copy that. We are gonna actually do a blast, I think, right now, which is fine. We'll move this up to here. And what we can do, we'll change that to points. And we're going to say, instead of just blasting it, we're going to say delete non-selected. So now we're only going to have that point. All right, so now we're just going to have one point. And this is what this was doing down here before. We can turn that off because it's not going to matter. Doesn't really need to do that check twice. So now we just have that one point that we're going to be using there. And what we can do is we can do a, what am I hitting? Not delete. We're going to use a point, not a point cop, point fop. Point cop would be much different. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this in a way that I really like to use. I think this is one of the nice uses for a point fop, because this, you could code this, but I mean, you could code it too pretty quickly, I guess. Well, let's just do it both ways. Why not? That's what we're here for. So what you can do is you can do a what is it? I think it's, if you type normal, it's displace along normal. So this is a kind of a cool node. What you can do is take P and N. I'm going to shift click those and put those both in there. And then we can take the P and the N here. And basically what this is going to do is just displace this point along its normal, right? Literally, it's all it's going to do. So now let's promote the displacement amount. Let's middle click on that and say promote parameter. And so if we come up here now, we can look and we can actually have this as a displacement amount along that normal vector, right? So this is going to be a little bit different than what we were doing before, because before we were just transforming it, right? And it's transforming based on that point position, but it doesn't know anything about the direction it's facing. So now when we do this and we have this nice displacement amounts, like say we want to have it just like that. So it's kind of just sitting right on the end of this, right? If you did it before the other way without this and tried to set it that way, which would be like this, it would work a little bit, but what you could now do is you can actually have it kind of seeing this normal direction here and using that to displace itself, right? It's going to know exactly what that normal direction is and displace along based on that. You could also then have it displace forward and backwards in the X direction and have that be kept, right? And not changing the orientation of it as it goes around. So let's just look at how this bends now, right? So if we keep this down here and come back up to the bend, this is going to work just fine. You know, like this, we can move it back and forth. So that's good. But now if we wanted to do something like have this position, you know, maybe move a little bit in the X direction, that's going to be a little different here, because in this case, if we wanted, or sorry, in the Z direction, in the X direction. Yeah. So if we wanted to move it like, I don't know, like this way, right? As we deform this, I think it's going to move differently. Yeah, it's going to have like some different kind of movement there. In fact, as it goes across here, it's getting kind of this weird, kind of flipping the direction of it and all that kind of stuff. So it's doing some weird stuff. But we should be able to just control that in here if we wanted to, make sure that it's always kind of going in the same direction as the normal is. So there's a couple different, so maybe, now that we have this in the correct direction, it seems, and having that orientation on it, it's going to like that a little bit more. So that's good. So I guess you could kind of do it either way. As I'm thinking about this, it seems like it's pretty similar, but whatever. We're getting in here and we're gonna do it. So I'm gonna leave that on, reset that. Cool. So we've got that. The other thing you would do here is if you wanted to do this as a point wrangle, what we would do is we would take the current point position here, and we would say, we would do v at p plus equals v at n times, and then I'm going to just make maybe a displace scale. Oh, that needs to be in quotes. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just saying, just coming up with some logic basically, and I'm saying we take the point position v at p, which is just saying the vector position, and take the vector normal right here, and we're gonna multiply. So we're gonna add the normal to it multiplied by a scale. And so I'm just going to set this at 0, and this should now do exactly the same thing. So if we bring this up to, so that is the actual length of the, so if you think about it, the normal vector is actually that long to start. And basically all that means is, like, when you were looking at this, like the normal vector here, it by default is actually scaled out that long. It's actually 1 unit length, right? And so it's going a full meter out. And so we're just giving it this scale here to basically scale it down by some value that we want, and have a float here. So, these are basically 2 ways of doing the same thing. So just keep that in mind, whatever, both work. I'm just going to get rid of that one because the point wrangle is probably faster. Cool. All right. So we've got this. Let's just give that a little offset, because actually this should work now that I have the orientation working properly. And so let's just give it a little thing like that, maybe. And I'm also going to, let's do this as a polygon. Let's give it maybe 8, something like that, just so it's got a little bit more resolution to it. All right. I'm just trying to think of, like, exactly what we've got going on here that we need to work on. Oh, yes. We want to change this a little bit so that it has a little bit of a deformation here in this direction, that it's, so it's kind of sitting towards, so it's kind of smushed up, right? That's something we want to do with this. So I was actually doing this with a snowman that I was making. So this should be pretty straightforward. So we know that we want it to be, it's going to be sitting in this direction, I think. So what we should be able to do is smush it in on this side here, and it'll sit up on the top, like when it gets reoriented up there. So let's do this. Let's do mask. So we're going to do a mask by feature, I think is what I want. Yes. So what this is going to do is give us a directional mask. And by default, it goes in the up direction, but that can be really easily changed by this vector. We could also do a point cloud if we wanted to, whatever, but we're just going to use a general vector to do this. So it should be in the positive, we see Z's pointing in this way, so it should be in the positive Z. So let's try that. Oh, sorry. It's not going to be in the positive Z. It's going to be in the negative Z, because we want it to be facing in that direction. So great. So the more that a primitive is facing in this direction, the more it's going to be added into, the stronger its strength in this mask is going to be. So that's cool. And this, oh, actually, I'm sorry. This is a point a point attribute, not a polygon attribute. So we can do that. And then we can also, don't need to copy that. Just want to move it down. Then we can do a soft transform here. And let's take this and we can use this to, we can use this to drive the attribute. I'm going to say mask should be the one we use, right? Yep. And so we're going to translate this. Oh, I'm not viewing that. So we're going to translate it just a little bit so that it kind of smushes up like that. And you can see there that should be doing more or less what we wanted to do, right? And we can use this same, we can use just this handle here to mess with that as well. So something like that. And what we can do with, if we wanted it to be less or more, you know, kind of localized, what we could do is we could change this angle here. And so we could change the maximum angle and make it more or less, and we could go even further with it. It's going to start going around that direction a little bit as well. You know, so yeah, maybe we do like 110 or something like that and see kind of where that gets us. So it goes a little bit around the top of it as well. Now let's take a look at this and see kind of how this is looking. And we've got our little thing kind of, you know, flattening, you know, on that end. And in fact, you know what? I'm just going to cancel out that translation and just make this maybe a little bit less, have a little less distance here. So let's just see here. Maybe we'll do something like that, just so it's slightly off. Nothing too crazy. Cool. Yep. We could also probably rotate this a little bit. Oh, right. So I'm rotating that, but what it's actually not doing, so it's rotating the object, but it's still smushing it the same way. So I actually need to do, if I want to rotate a little bit, I need to add another transform at the bottom here. Put that right there. And let's see, I feel like it should be the X direction. Oh, that's way too little. Nope, I'm wrong. Getting goofed up based on the fact that this is, there we go. So maybe like that. Maybe it's like 7.5, something like that. Use this to adjust it as well. And we can use this to give it a little more distance there. Cool. All right, so that's kind of doing its thing. It's got a little, I don't know, this trichome thing going on here. So now, one thing that we probably are going to want to do is make this kind of like neck structure here that's happening, because right now, if you look at it, it's really going to be pretty straight. Like it's not going to be doing any of that nice kind of smooth stuff that's happening in there. The way that I usually like to do that is with an SDF. So we're probably going to be doing all of our other fun mesh stuff over here, like any simulation stuff. So this is, I'm just going to leave that there because I know this will have some stuff in a second, but let's just play with that first. So let's grab some SDF. So let's do a VDB from polygons, drop that in here. And so there we go. Look at that. Looks perfect. All right. So we should be able to reduce this voxel size a bit like that. Always be careful when you're moving this, because especially if you're doing it on a fairly small scale, if you slide this too far, it will crash your computer almost without a doubt. If you make that too tiny, it's going to try to make insane numbers of voxels. It might be a little hard to see, but right now I have 32,000 voxels. If I change this down to, 0.005, it's going to add 131,000 voxels. So, I mean, these add up quickly. And like, if I go down to there, it's now at 3 million. So it certainly is not just like an even, like, oh, every time I add a 0 to this, it's going to add another 100,000 voxels or something. It's that kind of cubic function that just goes nuts. Like the closer you get to smaller and smaller numbers, it goes wild. So, just be mindful of that whenever you're tweaking these values. So, Yeah, that's... All right, so what I'm going to do is... I'm going to go maybe that far because we're starting to get too much of the detail from the actual polygons in there. You can actually start to see a bunch of the polygon details. So we're going to go like right here. Then we can do SDF smooth. And this is going to start doing some of those things that we're kind of looking for, where this starts to smooth out. We can adjust this more or less like that. So this filter voxel radius is basically looking at how many voxels apart that it's doing that smoothing. So if we do 1, it's only looking basically to the next one, either direction around it. 2 is going to look 2 in either direction around it. And this is just how many times it's doing that. So if we only do it 1 and 1, you're probably not going to see a huge difference there. It's a little bit, but not anything crazy. And the more times you do these iterations, the more smoothing is going to happen, right? You can obviously see how this is doing just that 1 voxel radius, 10 times. If we do 2 10 times, it's going to go crazy. It's going to go quite a bit quicker. And same thing, if we do that, it's going to, go crazier and crazier. Now, the higher and higher that you set these things, the longer this will take. So just, be mindful of that. This is mean value. If you want to do Gaussian, that's going to blur it quite a bit more aggressively. So in this case, you might only need, maybe 1 voxel radius and do something like 2 iterations or something like that, so that's going to maybe give you what you want. The reason I want to do this at the end is because I want to keep those polygons nice earlier, in the chain. If I want to be doing something with these, this like kind of stem, I guess, and want to make this something different, like make it puff up and do all that kind of stuff. I don't want to have to do that on crummy geometry. And so just as just to kind of show my mindset here, if I took this and then did a convert, sorry, I'm just going to move forward a little here, really back far. I don't know why. I feel like I'm back super, super far. So, if I do a convert VDB, changes to polygons, you will see that this gets quite messy, right? It gets kind of weird. And these are not the kind of polygons that we want to be using when we're simming, right? Because you can see that like by default, we're already getting some built-in like weirdness to this, right? And the reason for that is because this is taking a grid and turning it into a smooth shape, right? And so by default, squares aren't going to translate nicely back in, like these cubes aren't going to translate nicely back into smooth shapes from a topology standpoint. So you could do this, then you could do something like not a resample, remesh. And you could do this and give yourself, get nothing out of it. Yep, because it's too small. So let's do this, target size, a little bit bigger. And you could do something like that and get a little bit of a cleaner geometry. But again, this still is very randomized, not this nice regular kind of shape that we've got going on here. And on top of it, we want to keep these things separate. And I don't want to run this simulation on this kind of sphere top head part, whatever you want to call it, of this object. So you could do this, certainly is fine, but we're going to kind of leave that till the end. All right, so we have this mesh here for the stem, right? In fact, I'm going to call this stem mesh, just change the name of it so I know what I'm looking at here, and stem curve. And I like to make any little like nodes like this in the middle yellow, just so I can kind of see where things are. Like this is something that's kind of like in an intermediate state. I could pull that out for other things if I want to, but I don't really mean for it to be a final like output or anything like that. So I could reference it other places in my networks and stuff. So just kind of color coding for my own visual sanity. Nothing you have to do, but all right. So maybe what we'll do here is I'm going to try subdividing this once because I think we want a little more detail. The only thing I don't want to do is have it smooth and do this craziness. So I'm going to change the type to bilinear, which I believe is the correct one. Yes, 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 yes. There we go. So that's just going to subdivide without doing any of the smoothing, right? So we want that. That should all be good. Let me just make sure that we're not getting anything weird here. It doesn't look like we are. Great. So I just wanted to make sure we were just going to get a clean subdivision, and we could do it maybe more like that. How many points is that? Yeah, it's not too many. It's 51,000 points. Yeah, let's try it at 1 first, and then we can always up the subdivisions later. But I just don't want it to be, I don't want it to be too, I don't want it to be too detailed so that the sim goes slowly, but I want to make sure there's enough detail so that we can get a nice little puffy vellum thing going on. All right, so here's where we're going to start maybe doing some vellum type stuff here. So I'm going to turn this off again. So one thing I think, actually, sorry, turn it back on. One thing that I think is going to be really nice for this is that we can have our noise in the UV space instead of in a positional space. So I'm going to run the noise, probably some sort of cellular noise in that UV space, and see if that can get us kind of what we're looking for from the start. So let's just thinking about what the best way of doing this is going to be. Yeah. All right. Let's first try an adjust float. Let's try an attribute adjust float first. And what we're going to do is we are going to set the initial, actually set always. We'll just do it that way. We're going to say noise. And instead of P scale, let's do, I'm trying to think of a good name for this. Let's call this, we'll just call this noise cells, I guess, because this is going to be the thing that kind of helps drive this cellular pattern. And I think we should be able to get that noise type. Yep, there are certainly some cellular noise patterns down here. If you see all these cellular ones, that's great. All right, let's now turn off the UV space, and let's turn on that attribute. In fact, there's a little button right here that'll turn it on. There is our attribute across it. So we're starting to get something interesting going here, maybe. Let's maybe make this a little smaller, and we'll just kind of see where this is going. So we'll say 0.25. Yep. All right, cool. So we've got some stuff going on here. Just kind of playing around with this, see what we get. All right, so instead of it being a noise based on P, let's do it based on UV. See if that'll pull it up. Sure enough, it doesn't. Great. So what we'll do instead is we will do an attribute promote. And this is going to let us bring the UV from the vertex into the point. And now we should be good. So I'm going to say, yeah, average should be fine. Yeah, that's fine. I don't, hello. Yes, that's true. I am. Hi, Pseudo. How you doing? Nice to have you on the stream. I guess you must be a Houdini streamer as well. So welcome. Who gave away the secret that I do Houdini stuff? Oh, cool. Andrea or Andrea. Cool. Ah, nice, nice, awesome. Well, hello. Welcome to my chat. Oh, cool. Well, we're all part of one big Houdini family. Welcome, welcome. Yes, I stream on no problem. Lurk away. All right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just save this as UV point, just so we can keep the UV here as well, so we're not deleting that. Yeah, go follow away, please. The more we're all learning, the better, right? So I'm going to call this UV point instead, just so that we have we keep our nice UV attribute as well. I don't want to keep it in a point level. I would like it in the vertex level because that's actually a better space for it. But at least I think I like to keep it there. We can always delete this one later. So I just want to kind of keep both of them. So anyways, yeah, so this is that's kind of nice for Pseudo because he oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, thanks a lot. I actually have I've got an old I just realized I'm wearing my like this really old I can't even see it well, but it's an old my I got a haircut tonight. My haircutter was like, or my hairdresser was like, oh, I didn't, what's this Houdini thing? What's this side effect stuff? And because I've got an old Houdini Hive shirt on right now from Vancouver SIGGRAPH from a while ago. So I just noticed it in the thing. I'm like, oh, I got my side effects. I can see my little orange thing right there. Anyways, sorry, I'm getting distracted. It's the coffee. I'm too hyped up right now. Anyways, well, thank you for your sharing, Andrea. I'm guessing it's Andrea. I don't know. That's my guess. But yeah, luckily I'm streaming on YouTube as well, so you can get some you guys can get some some, what is the word I'm looking for? An audience there. I don't know. Anyways, I'm losing my mind. Cool. Hey, welcome, Bara. All right, so we've got this set up. We've got some of these cells going here. Let's just look at these different noise patterns because one of these is definitely going to be a lot better. And I think it's going to be maybe one of these here. Oh, you know what? I'm going to turn this off because Yep. Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, that's more like almost like yeah. Okay. Could do like a robotic one like this. Like a robotic noise pattern. Keep this looks kind of weird. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing on my screen. I don't like it. So I think what we're going to need to do is stretch this out in the probably the Y direction in that, or whatever, the V direction. So maybe we do this and just turn the octaves down a little bit so it's not so, yeah, maybe that's what it is. You just don't want it to be too crazy because then it's gonna mess it up a bunch. Yeah, so it's kind of all about playing with this feature here. Yeah, something like that. And then let's see if we can. Yeah, you know what's really crazy too? Like if you're from a, like, honestly, I think one of the weakest parts of Houdini is the noise functions. Honestly, I hate to say that. And maybe my coworkers will be mad at me for saying that. But I think like if you come from cinema's noise generation world, there's a crazy amount of noise there, and it's like pretty good. Like I'd love to incorporate more of that stuff into Houdini, but yeah, there's a lot of random patterns and noises, and there's like there's different ways of doing it in inside of like a VOP. Usually I like doing noise and VOPs the best. Like if I was going to use Vex or VOPs, I would use VOPs just because it's a little easier to control than putting all these arguments into a function. But anyways, yeah, it's a nice little thing there. I'm just trying to think of how to scale that. Okay, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll do a UV transform here. I think that's what I'm going to want to do. Interesting. Oh, right. I was just translating it. That's why I'm like, why is that not stretching? I was like, that's really weird that that's not stretching. That would explain it because I'm not stretching it. All right, so let's do this. Let's see if we can do something like this. Yeah, that's probably going to do something along the lines of what we want it to do. It's not going to be perfect, but let's maybe use this as a starting point. Okay, yeah, obviously the Z is not going to do anything. All right, let's just try this as a starting point. So we've got that, and what I want to do is maybe clamp this down a little bit just to make some more delineation maybe between these. So let's do something like, sorry, kind of just thinking on the fly here, see what we come up with. All right, let me just see if this is just mean. Let me do this. Smooth shaded. It might just be that I'm not giving it enough resolution. Okay, so let's do that. Yeah, that's not too bad. What is this gonna do for us here? Ooh, in fact, that's probably even gonna be better. Now that I look at it, that might even be better. So what I'm gonna do is have this pin down certain things based on their values. So I think what we're gonna do is blue is going to sorry. See, I like that pattern, but it's not really doing what I want it to. Let's see. Oh, maybe that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. So what I would like for it to do, yeah, actually this is going to work out pretty good. Okay. I forget the difference between all of these. I think there's let me see. You know what? Just go right to the source. Let's go to the help documentation. Give it a second here. Pull it up. Oh. Interesting. I've never seen that chart before. I don't know if it's new or what, but that's cool. There you go. Go to the documentation. Sometimes it's nice. It's actually always very nice, honestly. This half of where I've learned Houdini is in the documentation. Just wondering if they show those patterns. Yep, they do. Cool. So here is, yeah, Wikipedia articles for different things. Yeah, so these are all just variations on this. You could probably look at it on this Wikipedia. Yeah. Anyways, there you go. Little lookup if you want. Let's just see if we can make this any better. No, that's probably pretty good like that. Cool. This looks like a weird banana or something. I don't know, guys. Things are getting a little weird here. Okay, so maybe we'll do it like that. Just give it a little bit of noise. something like that. And then I'm just going to push this like, yeah, so pretty much the blue areas I want to keep down more or less. So what I'm going to do is, since we have the cells attribute now, I'm going to use that to drive a group, like a point group. So I'm going to do a group. We're going to do basically the same thing. Well, I'll show you maybe two different ways of doing this, right? Because it's going to be fine to do this as a group attribute. And we can say maybe like we'll call these pins because we're going to pin this down in the vellum. We'll set it to points and we'll say turn this base group off. And I'm also going to turn off the visualizer so we can actually just see what's going on here. And sorry, actually we are going to use that because we're going to use it based on... Okay, so what we're going to do is say cells, oops, at cells, maybe, well, I guess you can just say is equal to 0 because this is where the cells are equal to 0, right? So that is all of the points at which the cells are equal to 0, right? So that we could use that, but it's kind of some gaps missing there. Like I don't love some of these gaps and I feel like we could clean this up a little bit. So having a threshold here would be really nice. We could do something like at a point, we could say maybe say less cells are less than 0.1 and that'll add a little bit to it. And you can middle click on this and actually add, you can change that digit basically. But there's kind of a level of, because you need to have the digit there to actually be able to change it by middle clicking, which if you didn't know that, it's a nice little feature, right? You can just get a little dial in right there. But instead, what if we did this a little differently and we did, we'll just do a point wrangle because that's probably gonna be the easiest way of doing this because I actually think in VOPs, this would be a little trickier to do. And what we're gonna do is just do a simple if statement. So we're gonna say if at cells, which is the value that we're looking at down here, is less than a channel called, well, I like to think, I guess it's more of a parameter, but CH is going to, call that. And we're going to say, we'll just call it threshold, right? So if it's less than some threshold, do this in here. So that's going to be fine. We get no errors that way, so that's good. I'm going to make sure we make this little extra spare parameter. So we're looking at this parameter threshold, see if it's less than that. So, okay, so great. We don't know that it's doing it yet. And the thing that I really like about this is that you can just do at group underscore and then call, what did I call it? Pins? Yep, pins. And now, oh, sorry. You got to actually finish the statement. Equals 1. So that's basically saying if it's in there, 1, meaning Boolean of true. If you did 0, that means it's not in the group, right? So now we should have it in here. It's in the group pins. It might be a little harder to visualize maybe, but we can see here by turning on our little kind of visualize. What do they call this? Group and attribute list. I guess this will visualize what points are in that group, right? And now we should be able to do the same thing here and be able to vary this, except the difference now is we have 3 decimals of precision, which is kind of nice because you can more finely, more in a more fine-tuned manner, dial that in. So now we could just have those things that are gonna, kind of bulge out, whatever, however you want to do this. You could kind of play around with it. So we can use this to, to easily dial in that, and you don't have to be middle clicking on just one digit and try to grab it. Now you've got this nice little slider. So we're just going to do that. We're going to do that. Cool. All right. So, the other thing I want to set are like definitive pins, basically. So what I want, sorry guys, getting blown up here. Some Christmas plans apparently, which Christmas is soon. Ay, ay, don't disturb me. Thanks. Should have done that earlier. Anyways, okay, so the one thing we definitively want to do is set this top and bottom to have to not be kind of considered in this group, basically, whatever. Just trying to think if there's another attribute that we could use. Yeah, we could probably use. Yeah, we could probably use the curve U attribute actually. So let's do that. We can just actually hard code this in. We'll do just one more. We'll just do one more of these little things here, and we'll just kind of hard code those values in. So hopefully you guys can see that. I feel like that's a little on the small side. Let's see if I can, if I bring this up, maybe this is a little easier to see. Let me just see. Oh, there we go. Cool. Never mind. How about that? Now you should be able to see it a little easier. Oh, that's a nice little thing. I never knew that worked. Oh, that's so cool. Great. Okay, so what we're going to say instead is if if curve U is equal to, we're just going to hard code this and say we know 0.01 is one of them because that's obviously the lowest number here. Oh, shoot. We have an extra little guy there. Sure. So we see that if we like sort these, oh, my bad. There are actually 0. I thought maybe it wasn't making 0. Okay. That's an easier one then. So we'll just say if it's equal to 0, then it's in the group pins. So that's cool. And if it's another thing that we'll do is we're going to do like, this is basically a way of saying or. So we're going to do 2 of these verticals and then say, I'm just going to copy this and change it to 1. It's pretty easy. Should be simple. Boom. There we go. The whole top, the whole bottom are pinned as well. So we know that those aren't going to do any weird simulation stuff. So those are all good. Great. Great, great, great. I'm going to turn off our little visualization here and also turn that off. Cool. So we're just going to say set in groups. Cool. All right. So we've got that set. So now let's just do a, you know what? I'm going to do a vellum configure balloon, because that should be all that we need, because it's going to set up a cloth and set up a pressure for us. So why overcomplicate it when we can just do it all in one nice, easy step? So here we go. Got the cloth. We're going to pin those points down, which are pins. So now we've got those pin points set. Right there, you can see them all set. And then we have the pressure that's being created. And that doesn't need any pins because it should all be set in there. Now that's weird. Why are we getting those? Sorry, I'm just thinking about why we're getting those. So those aren't coming from here. Yep. Oh, I think I know why it's doing that, because it's trying to connect the top and the bottom for some reason, right? It's trying to connect these up here to these down here. Oh, it's weird. Okay. We'll see how this works. Now, the thing that's going to really hopefully work in our favor here, and the reason that's not really going to matter too much about the pressure there is because we're pinning all of these points down, right? So these pinned points, which they're very tiny right now. I can't really see them, but they're purple. It might be really hard to see, so my apologies. Anyways, there's some points that are those points that we put in that group are going to stay in their same shape. Here's vellum pressure. Now, what we could do is do let's just do a vellum solver and see where we get. Feeling we're going to want to up this a little bit, but for right now, we'll just kind of leave it more or less where it is. We don't need any ground or anything like that because it shouldn't move. Fingers crossed. Interesting. Interesting. Well, well. What do we think is happening here? That's interesting. I really wasn't expecting that. Let me turn off the pressure for a second and just let it be cloth and see if that is angry still. Okay, thank you. Go away. Hmm. Thickness shouldn't be an issue. That looks fine. You know what? I'm going to do calculate uniform just to make sure we're not adding too much like mass to this or something. For some, I don't know. It's very odd. I don't know why that would be happening. Just turn off these forces, make sure there's nothing weird acting on it. Oh, yeah. Hey, Peter, that's a great suggestion. Thank you for saying that. I've meant to try to find a way to do that. And yes, that is a great suggestion. Um, yeah, I will remember that. That is a very good suggestion. Thank you for dropping that in there. Yeah, I'd love to do the hotkeys on screen. I think that would be awesome and very helpful. Okay. Okay. All right, let's just turn this down a little bit. I just want to see. Not sure why the pressure thing isn't totally working here, but okay, so these should all be unpinned and free to move. Okay. Just out of curiosity, what happens if I do that? Hmm. Let me just do this. I'm going to turn these on. I'm going to turn these. So this is kind of a nice little thing you can do as well. We can turn those red, and I'm actually going to right click on this and remove this from the mask. And now we can just see the pinpoints that are in the group. And I just want to see what's going on here and why exactly this is happening. Ooh, I'm losing my cache here, so I'm just going to up that a little bit. As always, I like to give the little caveat that don't set this past like half of your RAM because it'll use up all your RAM and then your computer will start flipping out. So there's a lot of flexibility in Houdini, but just be careful. Be very careful. Let me just see if there's anything happening in here that I don't like. The stretch stiffness is fine. All right, let's go back to set uniform, see if that was better for us. No, much worse. Hate it. So angry. So one of the things that happens there, just as an FYI, and I truly don't know the exact reason why this happens, but um, something in the calculation happens when you set the mass, right? So, oh, that's really weird. If they're in that point group, they have no mass. Okay, so let's see if we can change that. Stopped? Is that going to be better? I'm not on the solver, so that's okay. So, anyways, what I was saying was that the mass is what causes some of these instabilities sometimes. So, like in this case, I have it set so that the mass is uniformly set to 0.1, right? I think that's actually what this was. I want to say that this is what it was set to by default when I put the balloon down. But one of the things that does is sets the mass to 0.1 for all of these points. And if I do calculate uniform, which is basically saying what's the density, you can see now the mass is way smaller, which the density is way too small. So like maybe you do 100 on the density or something. You can see what the mass is set to. And even if you did something of like a density like this, which is like the density of water, right? Like that's like 1,000, I think, is close to the density of water. You're getting 3 decimal places before you get any numbers. So the difference between set uniform and calculate uniform, if you're doing it this way, is like a couple orders of magnitude. So that's why you're getting some of that stuff. So let's just see here, see what this does. Maybe this will be better because that might be why it wasn't moving because the mass was too low. Yep. Okay. So we're getting somewhere now. And in fact, we're getting some sagging here, which is good. Let me turn this visualizer off for a second. And actually, yeah, I think that's doing sort of what we want it to. Now, let's turn this pressure back on and see where we go here. Um, sorry, I'm just trying to remember this. If it's the stiffness or if it's the rest length that changes it. I think it's the rest length actually. Let me undo that. So I think it's going to be this that's going to help with the pressure. Both? Sorry, I don't know why this is. Here we go. Ayo. It's both. Oh, sometimes I forget how these things work. Ay, ay, ay. All right, let's just see. Let's just see. Okay, so let me make sure I'm doing this right. So if we set this back to 1,000,000, yeah, that's not going to do it. If I go even all the way up, that's not going to do it either because it's just nothing. Okay. Start at 100. All right. Let's just set this a little like 1 1/8 and set it at maybe 1,000. That's interesting. What size is my object? Yeah, it's probably in that. Yeah, it's actually smaller than a meter. That's interesting, Liam. Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Yeah, definitely small stuff it doesn't like. I can. It's true of a lot of solvers, really, in general. You don't want particularly small stuff. Um, yeah, no, that's a great observation for sure. Yeah, we can try making it a little bit bigger. All right, so let's just do. Oops. Gonna play around with some of these values. All right, let's go up a little higher here. There we go. Now we're starting to get some stuff happening. Um, so maybe instead we'll do a little softer and maybe like 1.5 here, something like that. Yeah, so the other thing that you could do is you could do this in quasi-static. And basically this is just going to run 10 frames and then give you the output basically. Or you could set how many frames. So you could do maybe like 15 or something like that, whatever. It's going to run 15 frames and then give you the output. Now, in fact, you probably don't need that many. You could probably just do 6, whatever, maybe even 3. I don't know. It'd still give us the same result, more or less. So it's kind of just, wherever you want. If you want to set something like this, you could do a quasi-static. It'll give you that, simulation basically. You don't have to keep running it. So like what we could do is we could just do 1.75, see what that looks like. Yep, pushes it out a little bit. See where 2 gets us. So the tricky thing here is obviously balancing the scale of your what do you call it? The scale of your simulation, or sorry, the scale of your noise to kind of the scale of what you're doing. And obviously you could do something a little bit different too to get the shapes of these. I'm just using noise just to kind of to kind of get us close to it basically. Another thing I was thinking that you could do is give yourself you could do some select, like you could copy some like you could make some copies along it of like curves and things like that, or like take selections from it. There's a bunch of different ways you could really go about doing this. You could make a texture, that's the shape you wanted it. You could paint it in if you wanted to. Really any way that you set that pin group is going to be kind of your starting your kind of your starting point for this. Like in our case, this isn't on. In our case, we're looking at using this noise here, right? And so when we do this, we should see that those areas are kind of the parts that are bulging out here. And the lower we set this threshold here, the more that these are going to kind of all bulge out and kind of do their thing, right? So let me turn this off again. So you can see here that we're getting, more or less of that kind of those bumps and things like that coming through here. In fact, I'll just put that down like that. And oops, probably don't want that. Now this is, again, a little bit of a difference too, because we want to keep those details in there. So probably going to need a little bit higher resolution here to be able to keep some of those details in that you're kind of solving in there. But okay, so let me look at this subdivision here. We might actually want to go a little higher with this. Yes. Another thing that we're getting here is we're getting just thinking. All right, so one bad thing that this is doing is making these ridges, right? You can see it's faceted, right? So that's another problem that I should have thought about. So let's go back up here. We're going to do this in the polywire instead. See if we can't get it to do what we want it to. So let's, I don't know, this maybe 0.25, something like that. All right, that'll get us a little bit more vertical, and then we'll come here and we'll change our divisions around. I'll just try some round numbers. Hey, that's pretty darn close. 128. Let's do some. Nope, I should have known better than that. That's not going to work. Just kind of want these to be roughly square. All right, let's try that. Let's see if that does any better for us here as far as like getting the actual look of these. So here's our cells. fact, you know what? I'm going to try something here. I'm going to set this a little bit, give it a little bit more like that maybe. See if that. I just want to play around with this a little bit and give us maybe some better options here. The other thing I want to do is maybe turn the stiffness down a little. So it's not so stiff. All right, let's leave it like that actually first. And then we will do this. Huh. Whoa, funky. Okay, so it looks like part of the problem was that the stiffness was actually causing some weirdness there. Look at that. So that was part of the issue. So let's set this back to like 1. That freaked out. Let's turn off this just so we can see a little better. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely is a bit of a balancing act to do it this way. Uh, yeah, it's definitely not my favorite thing as far as how it's working. Let's see if we can't adjust this a little bit. Maybe pulling out a different noise pattern might be better. I don't know. So obviously this is the nice part about having, some procedural stuff going on here is that you can obviously use this to change, the way that these the way that these noises are working together. Just trying to think if there's maybe a better way of doing it in some cases. Like, okay, I'm just trying to think if there's like some sort of a pattern that we could select here. That's kind of what I'm thinking of now. Maybe we could do some sort of a pattern selection instead and then use the noise to break that like regular pattern up. That could be better. Okay. All right, labs random selection. You got my interest. What do you got for us? Okay. What's going on here? Must have a weird. It's a probably a better number than 172. I feel like something like 180 might be better. I don't know. Seems like I've got. There we go. Yeah, better. Like why is this not working? I should get some better stripes here. All right, so there maybe is a little bit better, and we could do something like that maybe. And then maybe what we do instead is we. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Okay, so select group from select. Yep, there we go. So that's selected. So that's good. There we go. There's our selected group. And then what we could do as well is, yeah, we don't need to color them. Let's see if there's any other. Nope. Okay, so we could use that and then do the same thing here. And maybe instead of doing it that way, okay, got an idea. So instead of doing it stretched vertically, what we could do instead is, let's see, let's look back at this noise. We'll turn these off here, this visualizer off. And so instead of it being stretched vertically, let's stretch it horizontally. The wrong one. Of course I did. Something more like that. I don't know. Let's see. We'll see. Um, yeah, this might work. Let's see here. Let's do something like this. We'll give it a shot. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a group combine, which is a nice little hand here. So let's do a group combine here. And this is like a good way to take multiple groups and combine them together, basically make a new group out of them. So Yeah, so we're going to take the pins and we're going to take, let's change this from pins to call this horizontal. Just like that, abbreviate it. We'll call this vert. That, so we got horizontal, vertical. And so what we'll do is we'll just take group name pins equals the vertical, intersect with horizontal, and now pins should be, oh yeah, no problem. So it's like kind of like this type of a thing. So it's like very vertical, but there's also these like random horizontal kind of things going through it. So I think this might get us more in that vein. I don't know. We'll see. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be something hopefully to work with. All right, so let's take this and this out of there. Oh, or that's what I want. Sorry, not and. Let's give that a shot. Right. Maybe that's too close together, possibly. That's the only thing I'm thinking of right now. Yeah, maybe that's. Kind of surprised that isn't bulging out more. All right, I'm gonna just change this back to dynamic just so I can actually like look at it as it's happening. All right. Hide that. I'm gonna look at that one more time. Yeah, there's lots of places where this should be bulging out, so I'm kind of confused by that, but we'll see. All right, let me just try what Liam mentioned. I'm just gonna try scaling this up. Mm-hmm. All right, let's just make this 3 meters instead now. Capture length is 3 meters. It's going to be too skinny, so we'll just multiply the width times 3. And then I'll just delete that channel. Cool. Take this times 3. Delete that channel. I can do that math in my head, but for some reason I didn't. Don't ask me why. Just want to make sure this is roughly. Yeah, cool. Okay. So this random selection should be good. Let's just see here. I'm just going to these. That should be good, but the let me just see. Actually, you know what? That's probably about the same. Yeah, because the scale of it is based on UV. Yeah, no, I just wanted to get the other side of it as well because I split it out into two separate things. So kind of stupid on my part, but yeah, no, yeah, that definitely would be a way to do it. But however, I just wouldn't get this scale over here. The other thing, the other really nice thing, if you've never used it before, is a compile. So the other thing I could have done instead of all that work is use the compile block. Like if you have something you want to do to a bunch of different streams along your geometry, you do a block, a compile block, and then you do an invoke compiled block here. And this will actually it'll actually run a set of nodes that you have over somewhere else. So yeah, look into that. I'm not going to do it right now, but it's definitely a nice workflow thing. Like if you had to do something across like even something like this, like in Vellum, where there's like multiple streams of data and you needed to do it on both of them at the same time, you could use an invoke to do that, and it'll do it both in parallel. Now the only problem is you can't do it on anything that has this here, where it's like a non-compilable thing, but yeah, it's easy enough thing to do. Anyways, okay, let's just see where this gets us. I'm gonna take out this, and that's fine. I can leave it like that. Cool. Weird banana thing. All right, let's see where this goes. Interesting. That took it way longer. That's fascinating. Why did that take so much longer to initialize that? What do I have something in here that's inherently making this more points when it gets smaller? Took the subdivide off. Sorry, I'm just thinking about why that took so much longer. It's really odd. Let me just turn that back down. Was that the problem? Just really surprised that this startup is taking so long at the very beginning. Like what inherently is in there that's what's happening there? That would change it when it scales up. Hmm. I'm very surprised by that. Why that would be changing the startup time of that. Look at that. I like that guy right there. He's really going hard right there. Hmm. Interesting. Well, one thing I want to do is I want to turn this down to just be 1 of 8. Let me just see here. I'm actually going to color it just so I can see. Yep, I don't actually think we need it to be so, whatever. It doesn't need to be so wide. 1 is fine. Maybe I'll turn the density down a little bit. Actually, no. I don't want to turn anything else down. Um, there we go. Why is my GPU freaking out? It's not happy about something here. Am I using this wrong? Does anybody know if I'm using this wrong? I might be doing this pressure thing wrong. I always forget exactly the way to do this because it says stretch. I feel like it's right, but I don't always remember everything. I think that's the way you want to use it, where you have the stiffness is like how much it bulges out, I guess. Or is like how hard it is to push it back, maybe. Let me see if I turn that down. Every time I start this, it freezes my because my graphics card is doing some stuff with my video. So No, I don't have anything scaling my geometry resolution. No, not that I can think of. Let me just double check. Well, there was a subdivide in here, but I turned that off. I'll get rid of that just to make sure. Yep, nothing there. Um, I did up this a little bit. But I don't think there's anything else. Oh, that is interesting. You're right. It is a much denser mesh. Um, you're right. When you're right, you're right. It's this resample here, I think. Are you there? Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what it was. Good call. Thank you. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. Yeah. Hopefully that's all it was. Let's see. Yeah. Looks like that might have been all it was. Thank you, Liam, for that. A great point, and I totally missed that that was affecting it. So thank you, sir. Um, Let me just see if this makes any difference. I'm going to cut this down in half, maybe. Probably will. It does affect it, but not as much as I'd like. Or probably more than I'd like, I should say. All right, let's just do 750 there. That might be okay. Yeah, we're starting to get like more detail and things like that in some ways. Um, I would. Oh, you're welcome. I'm like, what does YW mean? Gosh, that makes me feel really, really dumb or really old or both. I don't know. Well, something. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the noise thing is interesting because like the problem is that we kind of want these random vertical things going on here. You know, I wonder if let's just see here. Let's just see what happens as I change some of these around. Just kind of want to look at this and see what's Let's just see if that's any better. Too small now. It's almost like I want to do. Let's do 1 every 8. That's right. I forgot that that is actually what I wanted. And here. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that's an interesting point. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that a little bit before with attributes, right? To do that, right? Like have some more randomized things going on instead of just pinning them down. That's a good point. I think yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? I think you'd want to have some noise as far as let me turn off this color so it doesn't look so ridiculous. So I think you would want some like some of this going on here, right? So that you have excuse me, so you have like these lines that are kind of stuck down, right? Which I think makes sense, but I think the actual rest length attribute would be nice to change as well, to have that randomized. The only tricky thing with that, and it should be fine, is that you really have to go in here. Like if I do this, like a null here to look at this, that's our constraints. And more specifically, what we want is the vellum. If we want to take the vellum pressure, let's see here. So if we do a blast node here, let's just take a look at what the vellum pressure ones look like. Delete non-selected. So those are the vellum pressure ones. It's interesting. And it's all one primitive, which is bizarre to me. I don't understand how that works, but I accept that it does, I guess. But yeah, so we would need to add that rest length attribute to yeah, that's actually going to be kind of tricky there. How does that work? Hmm. That's really, I'm trying to think because, like, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, right? As far as changing it, right? But the problem here is that the points on these constraints don't matter. It's this rest length. There's only one, so I can't randomize it because there's only one primitive. so weird. Let me just look at something here real quick. Wondering if it's not liking this here. Let me just do this. Let me do a divide. Just grab that cap group. Do a so what I'm thinking right now that might be happening, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm wondering if it's not seeing that as one complete unit for some reason, like if it's seeing those caps as separate elements based on using that the whatever it is, polywire UV or whatever it is. I wonder if it's seeing the caps as separate. So I am just going to say, let's do that. Don't generate slivers, doesn't matter. We're just going to avoid some small angles there so it's not too let's just see here. Let me just do a remesh on that as well, just to see if I can't. A little better. Hopefully it likes that. And then let me just do a fuse here to make sure. What? Hello. Why? Oh. Put it before the remesh. I'm like, why did it fuse all of them? All right, we'll do that just to make sure that if there's any... it doesn't look like that's going to do it, but let's just see. Let's come back down here and see what it does for the pressure. Oh, okay. Just more on the top and bottom right because there's actually more points there. Okay. Well, that doesn't really help us at all. Yeah, I like the idea of the randomizing there, but I don't think that that's going to come in to play here. The way we could do that, though, I'll turn that off, the pressure, and let's just do vellum constraints here. And we could do struts, which should, let's see here. These should be a little different. This is like a soft body thing, but it might work in this case because they're all inside of there, all strutting their stuff in there. Lots of polygons or lots of primitives. Those could all be randomized. Set this down to 100. And what if we do this? Let's just see. Let's just see if this will work, because this is another way we could actually go about doing this. I don't know if it'll work for sure, but just make sure the pins are in the same spot. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, interesting. Those didn't all pick up. Yeah, that's okay. We'll see what happens here. All right, let's do their thing. They did. Really weirdly, but they did. Runs a lot quicker too. Interesting. Then what we could do is we could give something like, it's probably too much. Let's just do like 0.04. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just do this. See what this does. Just curiosity. Yep, there we go. Cool, makes those little crazy lines. That's fun. But now, if we take, I'm just gonna grab this because this is maybe roughly the noise that we want. No, never mind. I'm gonna do my own noise thing here. If we take this and we are gonna add a noise into that, so let's do a just float, and we have our rest lengths here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna attribute name on the primitives, and we're gonna say rest length. This could be the key. Let's see if this looks better. All right, so instead of adding, we're going to multiply, and we're going to multiply by a noise and the minimum and maximum value. We don't want it to, let's do middle and range. So the middle value will be 1, and we can do the range to be, I think really 0.02 will be enough, because really we just wanted to nudge up and down a little bit. Because it's a scale, right? So we only wanted to move it up and down a little bit, right? Because this is multiplying it. So we'll set this, right? Because it's 0.04. Oh, okay. So we actually wanted to go up and down by maybe 0.4. All right. So let's just reset that to default. So this is going to be our this is going to set our rest length scale, and it'll allow us to do it with a noise attribute. And what we can do is we can visualize this. So let's grab rest length right there. Interesting. Because really the thing is looking at the difference between the original and the rest length, which we could calculate, but I guess we won't really be able to visualize it too well. I guess. Yeah, we can do it. Let's just do it. We'll make a visualizer kind of thing here. So let's do a prim wrangle. This would be the easiest way probably to do it. And we'll take our let's see, we'll just make a float at, call this rest diff equals at rest length orig minus at rest length. So there's our difference. Very tiny in some cases, but really we want it to probably be a percentage, like a scale. Shoot, what is that math? It's 10 o'clock and the math is not working. Okay, so I think instead of divided by, we would take this, put it over here, do it like that, I think. Yay, yeah, math. We did it. Oh, for the love of God. What is happening there? Okay, so yeah, okay, that works. Fine, whatever. I don't know why there's ones that are 0, but I don't really care. All right, so now let's look at rest diff, and I'm just going to set that up so we can see it. So let's do this, and we'll do center and width. We'll say center is 1, and the width is 0.1. I don't know, something like that. Why is it still class primitive, maybe? Come on, man. Oh, so I'm not visualizing it. Because I'm not visualizing it. All right, cool. So now we can maybe see this noise a little bit better in here, even though this is absolute chaos. Let's see. All that just to visualize some noise. Whatever. Okay, so let's do this maybe. Okay. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. See where this gets us. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I'm very confused a little bit by that, but like, okay, why is it linear? I mean, it's doing something, but what the frick is it? It's because it's doing the location attribute by P. That's probably why. Okay, so we just need to take the point positions. Maybe is it maybe already doing that? I don't know how it's doing that if we're not using the location attribute P. P doesn't exist on the primitives. Is it doing it from the points? That's really interesting. I'm not sure what's going on there, like how it's calculating that P attribute. Um, all right, let's just set this back. I'm just going to see how this goes. Get it bigger. Give it another shot. With the vertical. The other thing I'm just thinking I could do is... Oh, wait a second. Is this doing the rest length? It's doing the rest length of all of them. It's doing the cloth too. What a dummy. That's why. That's the problem. So I need to do... I'm going to call this struts, just to make this a little easier. And that should just be struts. this should just be, oops. Just do that on the struts inside, and there's what's going on in there. Okay. And for visualization's sake, I can just grab this and blast the ones that aren't in struts. Bingo. There is our vertical striping that we've got going on. And the reason for that, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure it has something to do with that fact that it doesn't have a position attribute. So let's fix that. Let's do well, there's a couple different ways we could probably fix it. We could put the attribute on the points and then promote it. I'm not sure how that'll work, but that could do it. That could fix it. Ever, it won't. Yeah. So let's just do this. Let's just make an attribute on these that it can actually read. So let's do that. Let's do attribute promote because that's really all we're going to need, right? So we're going to do the original name is P. We're going to go from a point to a primitive. We're going to change the name of the new thing because we don't want to put a P attribute on that. We'll just call it prim. Like that. Copy that over. Put that here. That does say prim pause. Okay, that's not going to work. So instead we will do this here. But I think this is definitely the right answer, so that's why I'm continuing with this. All right, so instead of doing it here, we're going to do the point attribute for rest length. No. All right, so we'll do rest scale. And this is going to just be set and set always, set initial. Oh, that's why, because it's set to that. I don't want it to be that. This can go back to P. And okay, cool. So we've got this rest scale. We can promote that. Let's try this. Attribute promote this. Yeah. Okay. So we'll do a scale from point to primitive. Okay. Okay. We're getting somewhere. Getting somewhere. And then all we need to do is we'll do another prim wrangle. here. This will be an easy way to do it. And we'll do at rest length times equals, which just means multiply by. Then we'll do at rest scale like that. And then we don't actually need to calculate this because that should tell us what it is, basically, I think. I don't know why that's not calculated. It doesn't make any sense. I didn't change those. Oh, the ones that I didn't calculate it for? Yes. We don't actually need to do that anymore, so that's fine. And I could just visualize, instead of rest difference, I could visualize rest scale. Center and width, which is 1, and we'll just do 0.1, I guess, something like that. Hey, we've got some noise here. That's great. It's really lovely. Trying to exaggerate this a little bit just to make these lines maybe come out a bit more. Don't know if it'll work, but give it a shot, I guess, right? I don't know. All right, let's see. Let's see what this does. I think it should work, but who knows? Well, definitely doesn't look as bad. Looks a lot closer. Doing something. Not happy. That's probably just because we're at one sub step here. So if we do another step, I bet you it'll like that. And we could probably do this just a little higher. Maybe. I don't know. A little too high, but it's definitely looking a little better, I think. Confused about where I'm going. All right, 1, 2, 5. Yeah. Needs to come down. Scale. Oh, you know what? The other thing I could do too is could actually instead of having it be based on the point position, I could have it based on the UV map, but that doesn't really. It's not really going to matter too much, I don't think. So. Hmm. Interesting. Let's see what that does. Oh, hey! Whoa! Something's happening here. It's kind of looking cool. It's maybe not exactly right. It looks maybe a little more like a pickle, but you know, hey, something's happening. Oh yeah, yeah. Let's just make it look worse. How about that? Good job, good job, bro. Just want to make sure I'm still pinning these points. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So instead of that, let's just see if we can make those here, the random selection. I'm just going to select 2 every 8. See if that'll make those verticals a little stand more maybe. Mm-hmm. 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 Now I actually want this scale to come back up a little bit. It's actually making too many little things. Okay. Set the random selection back. But this is doing something a little bit closer to what we wanted to. It's like jiggly now, which is kind of funny. Hmm. Yeah, I think something's happening here that's kind of nice. Whoa, funky. Something kind of interesting going on here. Make sure everything's fine here. Stiffness, stretch stiffness. Let's maybe turn that down a little. Maybe we don't need so stiff. Whoa. Never mind. Maybe a little more stiff actually in the stretch. Yeah. Interesting. So it's almost like a little bit of a balance between the struts and the stiffness of the cloth. Or the stiffness of both of those against each other. So I wonder if we did that and then just slightly up the rest lengths here. Oh yeah. Now we're getting somewhere. Maybe what we could do instead would be turn this to 100 and change this down to like 1 or something and just make it a little looser. To up the rest length scale. Just curious what's going to happen here as we tweak. Don't think we want it to be quite rigid. I mean, like we want to give it a little something here. Oh yeah. Interesting, interesting. Very curious. Very interesting. It's doing something, you know? It's like it's kind of getting closer to what you would maybe want it to look like. Really it's more about adjusting now some of these verticals and, you know, giving it some more randomness there with like how how many like little horizontal breaks there are in that pattern, but um we're certainly got something going on here, which is kind of cool. Um let's make this bigger. I don't even know what this is doing. That's craziness. All right, I'm gonna set this back because I kind of liked what it was doing before, but now I've tweaked it too much. All right, let's just see if I can up the scale of this a little bit. All right. I want to see what this does with substep, just as a curiosity. Yeah, it's like less smooth. Probably even better. Like the little jiggle, fun. Um, let's do this. Let's do quasi-stick. Let's just do like see what happens as I change some of these things here. Just to kind of okay. That's like two. Yeah, it's interesting. You need to be noisy enough to get a little bit of detail in there, but like not too noisy. Yeah, so I mean, something like that's starting to look more interesting, I think. And then just for the sake of getting this to a place where it's actually looking like something, let's go down here and kind of maybe finish this up a little bit. And so we've got these two things going on here, right? This top sphere thing and that, which is whatever. We can tweak this. So we're going to do the VDB from polygons. Oh, sorry. You know what? I'm actually going to change this to be 3 substeps just to get it a little smoother. 2, 2. Cool. All right. So we've got this VDB smooth right here. But that might actually be doing a little too much maybe right now. Actually, kind of fine. So the voxel size seems okay. Yeah, we got a decent number of voxels there. In fact, they probably are too small because this should probably be like 0.6 or 0.5 maybe, somewhere in there. Probably a few too many. So we'll do something like that. Then we'll do the VDB smooth right here. And let's see. Yeah, I definitely don't need it to smooth all the way down. And let's see here. Should we push this up a little bit more? Yep. Something like that there is probably better. Is that looking? Oh, the other thing too that you can do in here is use the world space unit. So if we click that, we'll see some of these things change. Like, so maybe it's 0.01, something like that. However, this is all looking a little too smooth. So let's just maybe bump up the resolution of that a little bit just so we can make this work a little better. All right, we could actually use a mask too, couldn't we? Yeah, let's do that. Why not? One more thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I think I'm going to do a union, Boolean union. Let me see if I can make this work. So if we Boolean union those, we should be able to get seams, I think, from it. He asks, questioningly. Edges. Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. So yeah. Shouldn't have selected all those because that remesh is way too high because we changed the scale of it. Oh, cool. Thanks. There we go. Okay. So we've got this Boolean like that. We're going to do edge, edge group to curve. And we're going to take the group A seams. There we go. We've got a curve from it, which is lovely. And now we can use that to do we can just do a sweep of it, I think. Oh, yeah. Just do a round tube. Maybe not. What is the one that I want to do? Maybe it's wireframe? That's fine. Yeah, that should probably work. Let's just see if we can do it. Polygons. I think that'll work. Of course it didn't work. Okay. Maybe that'll work. Let's do a resample instead and change this. Something like that. Now if we do a sweep, I bet you that'll be a lot happier. Ah. Oh, we have too many attributes on here, so let's just delete a bunch. I'm going to do this the opposite way and just say delete non-selected, and I'm going to get rid of position and gosh, anything else? Probably not. Sure. That's good. That's good. Kind of curious why that wasn't working. That seemed really ridiculous. And it's just because it had a bunch of attributes on it that was causing some problems. So, all right, there's that. We can see this, right? So let's just make this a little bigger like that. Sure. 0.5. BDB from polygons. I wonder what kind of mask this is going to need. Let's try the surface. We'll give that a shot. See what happens. Okay. Don't think it likes that. So let's do this density. Let's do a fog instead. And then we will try that. See if that's what it's looking for. I would say it is. That's awesome. Never done that before. That is really nice. So now I can blur just that section. There you go. Little tip. Blurring sections of volumes. Then we could do another just really light. Oh, yep, did the same thing again. Sorry. Escape. Oh, what the heck is going on here? Oh, probably don't need that level of detail now, since we're kind of specifying where we want our solution to go. Okay, that's fine. Cool. I'm going to just change this from auto update to manual so I can go down here and actually adjust this. We're going to change the target size. Set this back to auto. Take a second just because there's a lot of polys there, but there we go. Another thing we could do as well is at this point we could just give it a little bit of adaptivity, just so it's not so many polygons. And maybe we do that. Should hopefully remesh a little quicker. We could do something like that, or we could do a poly reduce. Or you could just leave it like that if you wanted to. And you could do something like that. It's maybe not the cleanest thing in the world, but you know, it gets you there maybe, gets the job done. So, you know, I can't say that this is obviously perfect. I think there's a lot that you could do to kind of tweak it and make it better. However, it is certainly, you know, pretty interesting example of doing some, you know, some procedural modeling, working with, you know, different ways of doing geometry in here, kind of doing the VDB stuff at the end, I think is kind of interesting as well. And I think we maybe figured some stuff out with the Vellum solver. You know, sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error there. This was better than the World Cup. I heard the end of the World Cup was amazing. I'm from the US, obviously, so I don't watch football. So I'm super lame like that. We don't really like that. We really like people getting more brain injuries during our football. So I'm not a big World Cup person, but yeah. I mean, I think Houdini is usually better than the World Cup anyways, but well, Peter, I hope this was something at least interesting for you and maybe gives you some new thoughts on it. There's certainly a lot more that you could do to dial this in and get it better. We haven't talked about shading at all, obviously, either, but yeah, I think you've got some interesting stuff to think about there, and I really appreciate your you know, your topic idea. And another thing too, just to keep in mind, is that we do at this point, I think, still have UVs. We do. So you could then, this was better than American football. There you go. Oh man. Yes. Yeah, American football is crazy too. I do like it, but there's definitely part of me that's like, I don't like condoning this sport. It seems ridiculous. I mean, I like hockey a lot too, and that has concussions as well, but you know, just tough to, you know, American sports are brutal. We're a little barbaric. That whole Roman Empire thing going on. Anyways, wah wah, bummer. Anyways, I think just something to think about is that you could project these UVs back onto this mesh if you like remeshed it and did stuff like that. So there's certainly like some back and forth that you could do. so yeah, so that just to keep, using an attribute transfer node, you could pull this UV, and I mean, we can just do that real quick. Attribute transfer here to from, and we'll just do the vertices. We'll do the UV, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get you something, right? It's going to get you some textures. And we didn't UV this top part, so, but I mean, it's a sphere. It's not going to be super hard to UV. But yeah, so anyways, that is where I think we're going to end the stream for the evening and for the year. Kind of crazy that I only started this around this time last year over my kind of winter sabbatical. I've gotten a new job since then, and we've been doing a lot of hopefully interesting things on the stream here. And go Ducks. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for being a part of the stream. I really appreciate it. When I first started doing this, it was just me here, so it was a little bit more difficult to keep going and feel like I was doing anything helpful or useful to people. But I feel like we're getting, hopefully you guys are getting some stuff out of these streams. And yeah, hopefully this is all good stuff. I have some ideas for next year, hopefully doing a bunch more. Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I already have had a little bit of rest time recently, just due to the very, very nice vacation package that Side Effects gives me, which I am very grateful for. And I think maybe being a Canadian company, they are very, very, very thoughtful of their employees, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm really hoping to get some cool stuff going for the stream, some new looks for things, and also just got some ideas as far as doing Vex stuff, and maybe some more motion graphic stuff with mops. I was talking to Henry, who does that a little bit, and he was just giving me some info about things that he gets asked a lot for that. Talking probably more about Solaris in the coming year, maybe giving some more insight into that, and just hopefully a lot of good stuff to come. So thank you guys so much for being part of the stream this year. It has just been super fun for me, and hopefully fun for you guys. Here's just the link again in the chat if you would like to be a part of the Discord, be a part of anything. I've got a calendar on there as far as like when I'm streaming. I want to get better at that as well, and kind of saying what topics are coming up. So that's something on my mind. And yeah, so that is it for the year. Thank you guys so much for being part of it. And we'll see you in the new year. Have a wonderful Christmas weekend coming up here if you celebrate that. And either way, hope you have a great new year. And we'll see you guys in 2023. So thanks so much. See you all real soon. Bye.